Hey guys, it's Dani. Welcome to my top decks of 2019. So I'm really excited to bring this to you guys. I have it kind of structured with my top 2 Oracle decks that I used this year and my top 5 tarot decks. Because you know I gotta have a top 5. It was really hard to choose. So let's kind of dive right in. Let's start with the Oracle. So first Oracle that I used a lot for client reads or reading for others, and that is the Connected and Free. Let me show you the box here. The Connected and Free Oracle. This is the Alchemist Oracle. I was trying to see. Inner Hue is who puts this deck out. I've been having this deck for a while, but I find myself using it just as much as I did when I first received it. If I'm going to read with just Oracle cards, which is very rare, very, very rare, this is the deck that I will do it with. It's one of my only tarot decks that I really like doing that with. There's maybe 1 or 2 others that I'm like, oh, you can get a really good spread. Those would maybe be the Earthbound Oracle, which is always a favorite of mine. And what else? Maybe the Oracle of Oddities really has some depth to it and is really good with doing full spreads. But even so, I would say my top 2 for those, Earthbound Oracle and this Inner Hue. This deck is such good quality. I've been having it for a really long time, and you can see as much as I use it and shuffle it with black backs, they're not in bad shape at all. And in the front, you can't even see anything, you know? So I have to say the quality is good. The keywords are fantastic. Beautiful artwork. I don't know. I use this so much this year for all kinds of different readings. And like I said, it's definitely my number 1 for using an Oracle deck for a full reading. This is definitely my top choice. So that's my number 2 Oracle. My number 1 is Queen of the Moon Oracle. Now, I only had a top 2 because I don't use Oracle decks a ton. I mostly just use them as companions to my tarot readings, but this deck, I don't know how I ever lived without it. I use this so much this year. The second I got it, I started adding it to my tarot reads. And while I don't read, again, like the Connected and Free, I don't read with this deck by itself. That's not a thing that I've ever been drawn to do with this deck. However, it is so perfect for that extra something that almost every client reading that I've had this year, almost every reading that I've done for myself has an accompanying Queen of the Moon Oracle. Queen of the Moon Oracle, yes. I always want to say it completely wrong, but that's what it is. Now, just a little aside, I almost didn't get this deck because when I first saw the artwork, like stuff like this, I thought immediately of Wisdom of the Oracle deck by Colette Baron Reed. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I have it. And like even this, like you can see, it immediately made me think of it, you know? And I'm just like, do I need another deck? The artwork feels very similar. I don't know if I'm really gonna like it. But the more I looked at it, the more I was like, well, maybe there's something different, right? Maybe there's something extra about it. So I went into one of the local shops in my area and it was there, and I said, you know what? Let me get it. I'm just gonna get it. I'm so glad that I did. I am so glad that I did. Not only are the keywords fantastic, we have self-love, blossoming, beauty, fear, but it also has the corresponding moon phases and moons. We have like the harvest moon here. We have waning gibbous 5 here. There's a few others that kind of show up as well. Am I gonna be able to find it? I don't know. There's like a lunar god and things like that. And at first I was like, well, those aren't really gonna matter. You know, I'm looking more for the keywords and stuff. It's like sometimes I feel like the phase of the moon or the type of moon is not important, but other times it's like the keyword falls away and it's like it's all about that like full moon. It's all about the waxing crescent. You know what I mean? So it really did surprise me in that aspect. And while I don't use the guidebook a ton, I feel like it does give you some really great affirmations and explanations. There's even, where are they at? Companion stones or metals to it. So you can really dive deeper if you'd like. And I have to say, of my moon, I have 2 favorite moon oracles. That's this one and my moon deck. It's called the moon deck. And I have to say, I feel like they both do have really great guidebooks. My moon deck has rituals with every single card. And this one, I like the idea of having the affirmation and the companion stone. Because again, if you want to go deeper, you can really dive in. And so I'm really glad that I ended up getting this deck, especially because after working with it, I realized, although it didn't seem like it at first, there's such a huge difference between the wisdom of the oracle and this deck, because this is more fairy tale like and whimsy, whereas this one is a bit more grown up, right? It's cosmic. And so it is definitely my top pick of 2019 for my oracles. So now, without further ado, let's move on to my top 5 tarot of 2019. My number 5 is going to be the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. Now, I used the hell out of this deck this year, and I feel like I used it more so when reading for others. I feel like the tone of this deck, I really got to explore that this year by reading for others with it so much. I got to really appreciate not only the art, because it feels vintage while not being vintage. It's almost like stuff that you would see in a museum, right? Some of these major arcana, they're just so beautiful. And it's like a pip deck, but yet not really a pip deck, but it's not really situational like RWS. It's like somewhere in the middle where it gives those hints. Like you're just seeing swords, but that boat gives that slight nod to RWS. And the muted colors are like non-invasive, if that makes sense. I just felt like the calmness of this deck really shone through this year. And I felt like it was just a breeze to read with. Like I said, when reading for others, this was the first deck that I went to. I don't know, there's just something about the quality and the vibes from it that I feel is completely unmatched. I don't think, personally, there's another deck that can come close to what the Pagan Otherworlds does, if that makes sense. It's the simplicity and the complexity that kind of just intertwine and create this just interesting deck. I don't know. That probably made no sense, but that's just the way it feels, right? So my number 5 would definitely be the Pagan Otherworlds. Now this is the, I know there's more than one edition right now. This is the first edition, the 2016 first edition that I've been having. So number 5, Pagan Otherworlds. On to, oh, let's not drop everything. On to number 4. This is another deck that I love taking out, no matter if it's for myself or for others. It is my most softly masculine deck that I have, and that is the Fountain Tarot. I don't think I have anything bad to say about this deck. I just don't. I love the colors. I love the back. I love the gilding. This deck I find is, it's like unique within itself. I think it's the lines and the hard lines and the geometry that's in each card that makes it stand out. I feel like there are, so at least my collection, I feel like most other decks I have don't engage with such rough lines. And I think that's why it feels so masculine to me, is because in every card you see the geometry of things. And it's like the muted colors, the depth of the faces, you know, like the expressions on these faces, the movement that you see is just phenomenal. And it brings things in that I normally don't think of when using other decks. So this is definitely a fave of mine of 2019. I use the hell out of it. The Fountain Tarot. So, on to number 3. Number 3, I consider my Fountain's companion, and that is the Moonchild Tarot. This deck was instantly a favorite of mine. I got this deck when it was released. Oh, it's really big, too. That's what she said. Okay, sorry. Coughing. Okay, so this ginormous deck is another favorite of mine. Like I said, it's almost, I feel like it's the companion to my Fountain Tarot, whereas my Fountain Tarot is like fine lines and geometry and masculinity and structure. I feel like the Moonchild Tarot is the softness, the roundness, the flow, the feminine to the masculine. Everything about it makes me feel comforted and connected, which I think is why it became such a fast favorite. Even though aesthetically it's very pink, and I don't really have a lot of like pink in my I know that's like a weird thing to say, but it's true. Like, I don't have a lot of light pastels. There we go. I'm saying pink, but pastels is not something that I keep a lot of deck wise. So I don't know. It's just so beautiful. I couldn't resist. I love the art. I love the feel and the guidebook, you guys. Like, I know I don't talk about guidebooks often, but man, just like, you know, giving props to the Queen of the Moon Oracle guidebook, this one is pretty amazing because it has what's going on in the card, right? It has keywords, and then it has inquiry. So it gives you 2 questions to ask when working with your card. Then it gives you 2 affirmations. Now, that's along with a description, meaning, right? And a reversed. There's so much going on. Each and every card has this. Each and every one. So it was definitely well done. Nice and chunky. So this is my number 3 favorite deck of 2019. The Moonchild Tarot. My number 2 is my favorite weird deck. And that is the Mini Queens Tarot. This is by Letty Jane Rennekamp. Mini Queens Tarot. It doesn't say the name on it. Nice little bitty guidebook on this one. Nothing too crazy on the guidebook. But this is another pretty big deck. And it is just a y'all know I can't show nothing without it being upside down. Another spectacularly weird deck. It is all black and white. There's just it just gives me all the feels. I put this deck and I lay out a spread and I'm just it pulls me in. It makes me think. I like the weirdness of it. I like the strangeness of the bodies and the angles and all the, all the weird shapes in this deck. I also really enjoyed putting some of these in my journals where I would take the card and I would scan it in and print out a copy and I would cut it out and then color it in, or highlight and put some different colors on it inside my journals. I loved doing that. It also made me sit with that image and really see what's going on, because even though it's black and white, sometimes these things are so busy and you don't notice little things. And I think that's what I loved the most about this, is while it seems so simple, it's not, there's so much more to it. And then putting color to it was super fun. I'm not gonna lie, it was super fun to kind of bring it to life even more so in my own way. So this is definitely upside down. Definitely a fun deck to work with, and one of my top for 2019. So, my number 1. Can you guess what it is? Have you already guessed what it is? I bet you have. I bet you have. My number 1 deck of 2019. Revival Art Tarot. I'm like, oh, duh. This has quickly become my soul deck, y'all. There is something about the sumptuous. Did you know, I have a tendency toward these really, really big decks, but I have big hands, and I just like something substantial. Just get your mind out of the gutter. It's dirty. Stop it. This deck, I love it. And you guys know, I say that all the time. So many people do not like art being put into the tarot, kind of forcing it to fit in with the card or with the meaning. But I love stuff like that. I love it. And to me, this is the most beautifully done deck of its kind. These images have so much life to them. You can really get in there and see the faces. You can see what's going on. They each hold a vibe, path working with this deck is insane. It is insane. I can sit here for hours with these images. I really can. It's like I can almost connect to it and immediately get in there, right? Like I can get into this situation, I can turn around, I can see what's going on behind it, what's going on the sides, really tap into the whole energy of this image. I think more so than any deck I own. I'm gonna say it. More than any deck I own. That's what this deck makes me feel like. Each image I feel like I can stand in, I can look around, I can feel it, I can smell it, I can taste it. Can you tell that I love this deck? So if I had to give the top rating to any deck, not only of 2019, but of all time, it would definitely be this Revival Art Tarot. I've used it for just daily pulls. I've used it for path working. I've used it for shadow work. I've used it for just little fun spreads. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And if I can say anything to the quality of it, now my little white book, or little black book in this case, and now it doesn't say much. If I had to say something negative, I wish they would have said what pieces of art they used, but they don't. It's just little, just like some basic Becky keywords, or like, you know, meanings. There wasn't anything kind of standout-ish, but I had some pages that were kind of stuck together, which, I mean, in the end, I'm fine with, because this little white book just didn't, I mean, it didn't say anything about what was on the card, so it didn't talk about, like, you know, the high priestess, we see the maiden, that's blah, 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 like, nothing. It's literally just, let's see. You shouldn't intervene in ongoing process. Have some patience and wait. It will, yeah, this doesn't sound right. Listen, some patience and wait a bit. It will the way you plan it to. So, I mean, useless, if I'm being honest. Sorry. Not sorry. That's kind of, you know, it was messed up. I didn't bother reading it much, because when I opened it up and saw that it really didn't contain anything, I was just like, nah, whatever. But now, just literally sitting there reading the High Priestess, I'm like, it doesn't even make sense. So yeah, if you're looking for a good guidebook, this is not it. But I don't feel like you need it. You know what I mean? I don't feel like you need it. Anyway, oh. This is it, y'all. This is my number one of all time, of 2019, ever. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I had a great time talking about these decks. If you are looking to find me, you can find all my links below, and I will see you guys very soon. I'm sending you all my love. Mwah. Later, Gators.